It is recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Julian. So welcome everyone to Planting Our Seeds today on November 23rd. We are here with Grandmother's Voice to have a very interesting discussion today with our special guest, Grandmother Renee. Before we get started, I am going to say a few words and then I'll hand it over to Grandmother's Voice. So today I have a delicious soup in my lunch that I'm going to eat after this session or maybe during. And it's a butternut squash soup. And I'm really looking forward to it. The squash was given to me by my parents when I had a visit with them on Monday night after work. And my parents have a beautiful garden. They have a vegetable garden that they spend a lot of their spring, summer, and fall months in. And it's really important to them to grow the food that they eat and also to share that food with their family and friends. So I'm very fortunate to be often gifted lots of lovely vegetables from their garden. So when I have this soup today, I am going to be thinking about their garden because I visit it often. So I do remember when my father was planting the butternut squash, I watched it grow all summer and also watched it into the fall because it's one of the last vegetables that you usually harvest because you want it to kind of be there for the first frost because it develops its flavor. And so I brought the beautiful squash home and I made this soup. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm very fortunate to know where this soup comes from, that it nourishes me, and also thankful for the land that provided it, because it is in Oakville, where I grew up, where I live, and now where I work. So Oakville, as we know it today, is rich in the modern traditions and history of many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. From the lands of the Anishinaabe to the Adirondack and the Haudenosaunee, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in First Nations history. The town of Oakville is located on Treaty 14 and 22, lands of the territory of Mississaugas of the Credit, and we acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas for being the treaty holders of this traditional territory. So before we get started, I just wanted to for our participation today. And on this slide here, we see an intersection of Thomas and Church Street, which features an orange crosswalk in Oakville in honor and remembrance of the Indigenous children who never returned home to their families, as well as survivors, families, and communities affected by the residential school system across Canada. This is a visual reminder of the important truth and reconciliation work that needs and must continue in our community. The conversations we have here today encourages critical discussions about historical and contemporary issues facing Indigenous peoples. Before we get started, just some basic Zoom etiquette, because we have a group of us here today. Please use the chat to communicate. My colleague, Julian Kingston from the Oakville Museum is with me today, and he will help me monitor the chat. My other colleague, Nabil, who you're used to seeing here, does have another commitment today, so he will be back next week. But I know that he will be watching the recording after. Also on Zoom, if you feel more comfortable, please put your hand up using the hand up feature in the chat box to ask your question, and we will pass it on to the dialogue. You can also privately message me and Julian and Jody and Grandmother Renee if you have any questions or inquiries. Unless otherwise instructed, we'd like to ask that everyone keep themselves on mute. It just helps so that we can clearly hear our guest and our co-presenter. And please respect one another and their perspectives. And as we all know, this program is being recorded, and we will have the all the sessions up on YouTube for you to share. Nabil will send you the links. And if you've missed anything or have to step out of the room, know that you can come back and listen to all of this good conversation. So our participation agreements, we have 4 agreements we'd like to all make together. One is to stay engaged. Staying engaged means remaining morally, emotionally, intellectually, and socially involved in the dialogue. 2, to experience discomfort. This norm acknowledges that discomfort is inevitable especially in dialogue about race, and that participants make a commitment to bring issues into the open. Thirdly, speak your truth. This means being open about thoughts and feelings and not just saying what you think others want to hear. And lastly, expect and accept non-closure. This agreement asks participants to hang out in uncertainty and not to rush to quick solutions, especially in relation to racial understanding, which recognizes ongoing dialogue. And I will share these numbers, these contact crisis numbers with you in case you need to reach out. And if you don't have them handy, please connect with me or Julian, and we will get you the help that you need. And if you have any questions during or after, because sometimes questions come after you receive all this good conversation and information, please contact Affordable Access at oakville.ca or call Nabil directly. So this is Nabil's direct line, and you can definitely talk to a staff member. So with that, I am going to stop my share, and I'm going to invite Jody Harbour from Grandmother's Voice, who is leading this dialogue and this series. So for those of you who have joined us for the past 2 weeks, we are in week 3 now, and we have another session next week, and then an in-person session on Wednesday, December 14th, right, Jody? Which we will meet at the Orange Crosswalk. So we'll provide more information about that next week. But today I'd like to extend my thank you to Jody for continuing this series with us and sharing all of your learnings and teaching us about all of this, and also for bringing on these wonderful guests and new friends. So thank you, Jody.
Nyawa, thank you. Thank you for mentioning the Orange Crosswalk and our visit that will be there on December 14th. For those of you who have visited with us before, it's nice to see you again, see your names. And for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. As Grandma Renee would say, we've been waiting for you. And I'm so honored to be on my journey, in my life journey with Grandmother Renee Thomas Hill. And so I've asked her if she could do the opening today, because just to have this honor of being in the room with her, you'll know as she opens up this space for us and welcomes in the beautiful energies that support us on our walk together. So Nyawa for being here, and hello, Grandmother Renee.
Good day, everyone. It is such an honor to visit you. I never once thought I would have the opportunity of visiting so many people in all their homes, and by the grace of the universe, we are here together. And so in that way, we always acknowledge that beautiful being of each and every one of you. And so we like to acknowledge each, and I'm going to do it in the English language at this moment, so that you will have an understanding. And so at this time, we give acknowledgement to you and your families, and to all your generations that have made this journey here. You see, we have been praying for the people that have lost spirit, that they may come, and that they would come to understand why they have that lost spirit. And that was because of grief. And so we give these words. So we welcome you. We are very grateful, and we send blessings on to you and to your families, and to those that are in your community that may need of a prayer, support, guidance, and healing. And so we send it off. Now we look and we see that we are all here, and we are all paying, as they say, picking up our ears to listen. Sada hunsada. And so at this time, I bring you words of medicine, the words that were needed for us to start our day, the words that was to support us in any challenges. And so I give you these words of love, of kindness that was given to us. We are to follow our instructions and say these words before all else. De tino walare ne eat ni sta ha yon honzari. De tino walare o hinde raso. De tino walare John Hekwa. De tino walare kai so. De tino walare kurunda santana. Aguirele so. De tino walare otsit noa so. De tino walare kanyandiro. De tino walare sigadni gora. De tino walare itisaturati whereas. De tino walare kayeli ni walaki. De tiro a lot of ne sonkotsia, de ganika lakwa, de tino a lot of ne yonkes at the satikalakwa, de tiro a lot of ne, or just a garoni, de tiro a lot of ne sonkoyandiso. I know I said I was going to speak in the English language, but my spirit took over and I spoke in the language. And so I will share that. It is a short version that I give to my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. And so in English, it is a very short version of, because in our longhouse, we do it and it's sometimes hour and much more than an hour. And so I will give you a short version. We give thanks to Itnistaha Yon Honzari, to this mother that gives unconditional love. She loves each and every one of us. She knows each one and she knows what we are going through. And so she gives that unconditional love and support, no matter who we are, no matter what race, no matter what color, no matter what gender, she loves us all. And so she provides all these things that we are going to need in our daily life. She provides the food, like we heard, the food that will sustain us and to make us resilient. And so we keep that in our minds, forever grateful. We look and we see all the medicines that is here that are still growing. You may have called them weeds, but we have called them our medicine. And so they are here to help me and to help each and every one of us to fulfill our day's duty. And we give thanks. We look and we see all the animals. They are still fulfilling their duty. You see, they are still showing us how much they are following their instruction by taking care of us. And so we give greetings and gratitude. We look and we see all the trees and the shrubs and all the plant life, how they are providing shelter and many, many things that has given us the comfort of life and has given us the fragrance and the smell and the beauty of all creation. And so we give thanks. We look and we see the four winds, how they come from the four directions. We look and we are very grateful for change, for it is what we need in our lives, the change of being prepared. And so we give thanks. We look and see all these magnificent things that the Creator has provided, the two-legged ones, or winged ones, or fin ones. And so we give thanks to those that sing their songs, that greet us each day and give us, as they say, the good night. And so we give thanks. We look and we see how everything has shown us much love, how they are still here. And we are very grateful. We are grateful for the rain that comes because it knows its responsibility is to help the children that are here to have a clean land, clean air, and clean water. And so we give thanks. We give thanks for the snow, the coldness that comes because they're also following their duty is to take down all the virus that man will create. And so we give thanks when it is really cold. We give thanks when there's a lot of snow because they're taking care of us. And so we give greetings and gratitude. We look and we see our grandmother Moon, who has provided, who knows each and every one of us, who helps us, as they say, to be prepared for all the things that is to unfold. For we still see her in a sky world, still fulfilling her duty. And so we give thanks. We give thanks to the stars that provide those teachings. Each of us have our creation story in the sky world. And so we give thanks. We look and we see the thunder beings. Oh, how magnificent they are. They have their helpers, the lightnings. And so we give thanks. We look and we see all these magnificent things that is still looking after us. Sometimes we have forgotten. And it is said that one day we will all awaken and start to give thanks again. And so it is at this time we have gathered our minds as one. And so that sometime in our life, there has been a mentor. We have had one, Scana de Leon, Handsome Lake. He was a human being that had fallen from grace, just like many of us. But we have the opportunity to rise ourselves up and help another person because we know what it is like to be in that place. And so we give thanks. We give thanks to our guardians, the four beings. And so we say thank you. Thank you for guiding us and taking care of us. and coming with us as we come to this plane, this earth plane, and walking with us and helping us to return back to the sky world. For we have never been alone. We have never been abandoned. We have always been loved. And so we give thanks to the one that has created all. He is known by many names, but to you, we have made it, as we say in the words, we call him the one who has created all. And so we say, Oho, Neo, Miigwech.
So beautiful. Yawa. Thank you, Renee, for sharing that. And before we go into our conversation today, I just like to acknowledge the town of Oakville and my excuse me, my friends from that work within the organization. And there's many of them that have supported me on my journey. I live in Oakville. I have been here for over 30 years, in and out. I have a family here. Our business is here. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jody Harbor. Jody Nigasso. That's in Cayuga says my name is. And I've been on my journey to understand my family, where they came from, and the understanding of the events that happened throughout my life. And I was gifted an opportunity of an awakening when I was visiting land. And in that moment, you could say I connected with my ancestors. And so in that moment, it was like I knew that I had to carry them with me and bring them along my journey, because in that moment, I felt like my life changed and I didn't understand how or why, but I was open in that moment to say, okay, I feel like you're trying to tell me something. And it was really truly standing outside in the sun and on the land that I heard this message to live my purpose and to be true to myself. And so I began to learn who I was. And I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm an auntie, I'm a friend. I'm anything that people need me to be in their life. And I do. I was shared, Renee used the words today when I was sharing something, and she said, "You're feeding me words." And I loved that. I love that language. And this weekend, my husband said something to me that that brought me to tears. And that he said that I was the most trusting, loving person he's ever met in his life. And first I asked him if he was just saying that to get something. But he said, no, truly. And when he said that to me, I cried, because I remembered from a young age that that's a memory I have from my father, who was Indigenous. He didn't know his identity. He didn't know where he came from. He knew he was Indian. And it reminded me in that moment of that time when my dad was holding me and telling me how important I was, and that I had to be true to myself, and that I had to love fully, and I had to trust. And in what we're doing today here, sharing our relationship, I want to share my relationship with you and the land, and my relationship with Grandmother Renee, and how Grandmother's voice came to be, and why it's not, Grandmother's voice is not for me, it's for all of us. Mm-hmm. And is the voice of these women, the women that continue to guide me on this work in the region, in the world, in my essence, in my everything. When I met these women after, and I say these women meaning the grandmothers, my grandmother's voice, my ancestors, Grandmother Renee, Grandmother Gail, every grandmother that I've crossed paths with since we created this circle of voices and people who want to bring hope and love back into our community. That's why we created this. And we also created it because we were told that one was not enough. In this community, one was not enough to make change. And when that message was shared with me, and when those words were fed to me from this community, that I wasn't enough to make change, it was important for me to gather the people. And these grandmothers gave me the strength and the voice to gather the people, to make change. And again, thank you to the town of Oakville for creating this space, and Nabil, who will be watching this later because I know he loves the messages that Grandmother Renee shares. Nabil, Nyawa to you. And Daniel, who years ago believed in us that we were collectively supposed to make change. And so I didn't know, I wasn't this emotional, was I, Renee, earlier? When we spoke about what this time meant to us today, and sharing the truth of why the grandmas are here in this time. And as Grandma Renee said, they've been praying for this time. And so I'll just take you to that moment when I met Renee, and then she can move forward with her introducing herself and telling you more about what she needs to share today. But when I met her, and for those of you who know a bit of our story, I met Renee on my journey when I committed after that day when Mother Earth told me that I had a purpose to bring the people together and to help to heal. I continued on my journey to find my roots and find where my family came from. And I was guided to Six Nations, where Grandmother Renee was guiding and facilitating a genealogy group. And when I met her and Grandmother Gail there, that's when I found out Grandmother Gail's place was facilitating or holding the space, and Renee was creating this. And so I found out, several visits in, that Grandmother Renee and our great grandmas were sisters. And in that moment, she said, I've been waiting for you. And then she said, they must have brought us together for a reason. And in that moment, I held on to those words, because in our way, words are very important. Mm-hmm. The words and everything that I'm sharing with you right now, I didn't know before I met Renee. I may have known in my spirit and in my heart, that what you say, can hurt people, and, all of these sayings that we, have in mainstream. But I didn't know my true purpose until I met Renee. And she shared these some understandings that we reviewed over the last 2 weeks with Faith. She shared them in a way that was through PowerPoint and pictures, and showing us, how society may come to understand, because we've been trained in our minds to look at things and learn them and read them, and to give us ways to understand. But it was very important for us today to come in conversation together and circle and invite you into the relationship that Renee and I and Gail and other sisters, Sherry, and this community that have started to bring people together, to have a better understanding, to have all of the understandings that even Tanya shared with her, the words and the practices that they want to instill in this circle. And so last 2 weeks with Faith, she was reviewing, the Anishinaabe beliefs and practices that guide Indigenous people in this mainstream world. And so when we looked at some of the treaties and the contracts, we'll say, or relationships, the one that resonates with me always is because it's referred to a lot by many as the Two-Row Wampum Belt Treaty. And Renee gave this to me at the beginning of our journey together when we started to do work like this. And gather people together. She said, you need to bring this with you, Jody. You need to have that with you at the tables. You need to remind people when you're having conversations, because, this every single bead on here or shell represents so much, how important it is for relationships. And, over the last few weeks when I was listening to, Faith speaking about the two-row wampum and what it represents and how she described, the rows of trust and friendship and peace, and the two rows meaning, that they're separate but parallel to each other and they're equal. And, I see this in a way that, grandma's always talking metaphors, and they tell us that the earth around us always shows us metaphors to remind us of how we should be living. And sometimes I think that when we're being shared knowledge, or, knowledge is being transferred, whether it's through, gathering in circle or through a PowerPoint or painting, whatever it is, it's hard for us to really listen with our full self. And unless we look at it from different perspectives, like a metaphor, and looking at things like this two-row wampum. Yes, there's so much detail in here, but to me, this represents also being able to think outside of what we already believe in. And when they show us these two rows, these perspectives that I know that the grandmas share with us is now, now that you know what you know, or what you're hearing, how can you make it more from your heart and be more connected to you, and in a way that you can put this into your life. And so when I look at these two rows, I think, yes, of course they're separate, and we're equal, but this also stands for, not just like this is our way and this is your way, but this is also, this is our way, and we want you to understand it, so that at some point in time you can join us. And when you join us in an honorable way, and not in a way where you're coming in and telling us what to do or making us help you understand, but just to really try to come and be with your full self and full spirit. And so we're really fortunate that there have been many of our cousins in this area that have been showing up and wanting to be a part of Grandmother's Voice, to understand what it means to be in relationship, and what it means to just come along and respect each other, and not try to be taught how to be in relationship, as opposed to being reminded by embodying and being there. And so, I feel like today was, again, I was hoping that it would be more of a visit for Renee and I to share with you, why it's important for the Grandmother's Voices and elders and knowledge keepers to be here, and she has a lot of great words to share. And I hope that at the end of today's session, your spirits will feel as full as mine do.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. I am so grateful you listened to your ancestors for another understanding of life. When you participate, when you come together to know something, it is like your grandmas are kind of pushing you to say, here's another way of understanding life. And so what I'm sharing with you today is coming from a grandmother. A grandmother was always important in our community. So I look forward to being, as they say, aging into grandmotherhood. I look forward. It's totally a different concept than the Western world, where you think you're not useful. This is when you're the most powerful. So I knew when I was going, as I was growing, I was going to be a grandma, and I look forward to that day. So sego, se wat guego, gana disa youngets, wagatsioni, wagonia dehane. I'm very honored to share with you who I am, and to know that I represent the Gana Ligoa, the good message of peace. My father comes from where the flint is found. And that in our language would be Ganigahagi. So he comes of the land where the flint is found. And so my mother, she is of Kyoga Nation. So she comes from the land, the wetland, the muckland, where the medicines and all things are, as we say, are given to us. And so I come from a rich, rich heritage, the land. The land makes us who we are today. And so in that sense, we had been praying for this time when the first arrival of the visitors, because we knew, we were told they were coming, and they would be coming, as they say. We had to get ready because this belt tells of a story of the beginning of a relationship. You see that one has a white heart and this one has a dark heart. And so our belts, the men will say, will teach you in another understanding. So I'm going to teach you in another understanding of a grandmother's view. And so the grandmother was always chosen to speak for both, for, when there was trouble in the family or that nobody was understanding. The grandma would come in and share, well, this is how your father was. He's a little boy, but now he has to have to be more disciplined because he wants, I have to show them that when they're disciplined, they are loved. And so when then I have to talk to the children. And so I talk between both of them. And so I am very honored to be here today to share these understanding of life. And so this tells a story, because I tell my grandchildren, this is a story that wherever you go, always give that smile. Always give that gift that we are to uphold, and that is the Ganaligoa. And so we knew that people would come with a dark heart. That means a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, because they came from a place that was constantly with war within themselves and with others. And so we knew of that. And so we created out of this shell. Can you imagine creating tiny little beads without electricity? These are tiny little beads without electricity. So this is how we made a memory aid. This is how we were able to create these strings of wampum to help us to remember our responsibility to all. And so it was also the women that would have been a part of creating the belt. Everyone contributed in making this belt. And so when they made this belt, when you make this belt, I would like to invite you to make a belt, because it takes a lot of patience. And that's what it means in a relationship. You don't just go in and out and expect to know everything. You have to have patience. You have to walk together. And that's what the 2-row wampum is all about. When you come here, I will walk beside you. I will guide you. I will show you how to be well. I will show you the medicines on how to be well. And you can share what you have known of medicine so that we can create a healthier world. And so to my grandchildren, I explain it. Whenever you go into anyone's home, you are to honor that home. You are never to tell them, oh, this is the wrong way. This is the right way. You don't go in, you tell them. You just sit there and you honor that time you're being with them. And this is how I was taught. When I went, my mom would say, when you're visiting, you get up and you help them, because you share food together, you share a life together, but you don't intervene how that home is run. You just, so we have what you have the 10 Commandments. Well, we have a lot more than 10, but I like to compare it to the 7 grandfathers, where we would have the 7 thickness of our skin, and that's called integrity. And so this is what we had understood, because we were also, as they say, once was a troubled mind, but the peacemaker came to get us ready to help others. And so we were to have the good mind. That meant getting rid of our anger, getting rid of our guilt, getting rid of all those things that cause us to be warfare within ourselves. So we learned how to be a good human being. And so we learned compassion for all, especially our relatives, because if anyone was there that needed support, that means even the animals, even the trees, even the land, they are our kinship. They are connected to us. We cannot survive without them. And so we had to take care of them also, like they have taken care of us. It's a two-role relationship. The animals looked after us, so we must look after them. The water looks after us, so we must look after the water. The air looks after us, so we must take care of the air. The trees look after us, so we must take care of the trees. So today that we have been called protesters, but we are only here to remind, we're here also to help your children. Whenever your child gets sick, it makes us sad, because this was what the True Role album was all about. As long as the grass grows and the water flows, we ask that we honor each other children and create a better world for them. And so I can use this belt in many ways. And so this would represent the land, the air, and the water. We must all be responsible and take care of those things so it doesn't cause any problems in the future for our children. And that we didn't say our children, we said the children. So you benefit by being here, because we wanted you to have, as they say, we wanted to share the goodness and kindness of our mother, the earth. We don't look at her as land. We don't look at her as a piece of possession. We look at her as being a mother that has provided. And so this mother has taught us all these values, and she has taught us to have a good mind. This is what we make our homes. Originally, we had longhouses. And our other Indigenous relatives, they have other homes, wigwams, teepees, huts, igloos. And so all of them were based on integrity and values. The poles, the teepee poles, each part of that talks about what is in our home, is our integrity and our values. And so I did this for my grandchildren to show them what they need for their home. They need a good mind. They need compassion. They need to keep that spirituality very much alive. They need to be reminded to say kind words. They need to be reminded that the strength comes from making things right within themselves. But most of all, love. And so, and the seven grandfathers, they call it love, bravery, respect, honesty, humility, wisdom, and truth. And so our homes are built with integrity, responsibility, cooperation, responsiveness, and confidentiality, consistency, humor, kindness, and sharing, honesty, fairness, openness, and trustworthy. But that was not accepted. That was not accepted. They didn't understand our ceremonies, because this was one of the ways we give thanks. This is why we dance, because we celebrate that these things are still fulfilling their duty. We are still doing ceremonies to celebrate those trees, to celebrate them so that they can continue, not just for us, but all the children. We give thanks for the food. We have ceremonies. It's just like putting them and honoring them and holding them up to say, we are very grateful that you are still continuing. And so throughout the year, even our moons, they talk about, it's not January and February to us. It prepares our mind, our body, and our spirit, what moon we're having. And so many of you would know that it is time that it's getting cold. So very simple, the time of coldness. And so you had to get ready in your body. A lot of the people take it as November. So what are you doing in November preparing your body so that you do not get sick? That's what a grandmother. So Grandmother Moon wants you to get prepared for the coldness. That's what she means. It's coming, my children. Dress warm, eat properly, be outside so you be conditioned and so that you will have a long life. I even make snow angels because I love snow so much. I even like playing in mud because it reminds me of love. Do you remember that sound when it goes, when you get your gut stuck in the mud? It's like love just oozing out. And you just, that's why kids never cry. That's why kids will always run and jump in the mud and the water, because they know that inside. You knew that inside. And so this is why we are here to remind you of the two-row wampum, of building a relationship to support one another, not to tell each other how to live, but just to support, as they say. Let's work together for our children. Let's create a healthier and a happier community so that all children will be at peace. Isn't that beautiful? I keep thinking that, wow, when I see the children and I see the plants, I see the children, they're more close to the earth than the adults. And there are our teachers, because look at how much fun they have. Look how much they release their anger. And they do it naturally. You know, they'll be angry at 1 minute and then be friends. They'll forget their angriness and they get to go about and play. And so this is the natural world. This is Itnistaha Yon Hanzadi, how she prepares us to take care of that good mind and how to take care of ourselves. This is the most important thing all our treaty belts are all about, is self-care. Self-care. What are you doing for self-care today? And I say thank you for listening, because your spirit needs self-care. You need kind words. You need friend. You need that kinship. You need that belonging. You need to know that what you are doing is to be for the betterment of all, of the land, providing a safe environment, providing air, making sure that your children, as they say, what they breathe, they'll be taken care of. They said if man forgets to do all this, they will see their children suffering. And it's so sad today. What do we have? A children's hospital. A children's hospital that has resulted as man forgetting human beings forgetting their responsibility to the land, the air, and the water. Ah, but nature is always trying to take care of us. So please do not grumble and complain when it gets really cold or when it rains. Don't sit there with a sad face. Be like me and just, yay, just holler and just feel good, because I know my children are going to take care of. Because when I see that thunder coming, oh, I get excited. I know I know the children are going to be taken care of. You know, it's not just my children. I think of your children. Every day I'm putting a prayer out. I'm not only talking about the family that I have, but all the families out there. You know, I always pray for a healthier community. And I'm so grateful that the ancestors give me this opportunity to be here today. To talk about our belts would take many days. So for the short time, I just give you a teaser for you to know more, because hopefully now that we build this relationship, we will work together. And you know, I made it my mission. I made it my mission to understand other religion. And so I have worked with other churches and other organizations. I have gone to the UN and brought my belts. I have spoken in the synagogues and the churches. And so I shared with them that the similarities is for peace, all of us. We have that instruction on how to be a good human being. And so let us be that. Let us learn how to remove that heaviness of our heart. Let us learn how to cry again, because society has taught us not to cry. We're not in ceremony anymore. We're ashamed to cry. I can cry like that, a drop of the hat, because I know I'm in ceremony for my body and my spirit. My spirit is talking, because all these things was to create a better world. This is why the grandmothers came. We heard the voices of the children. One time I was in the schools a long time ago, and one of the young, well, after I shared this, I had time for questions. And he said, "How do you deal with racism?" I said, "Well, you remember the duck when he comes out of the water? What does he do? Doesn't he shakes it off?" I said, "Well, that's what I do. Because you see, peace is more important to me. I don't want to walk home and carry that hurt, that anger. You see, nature shows us how to recover, to be resilient. And so I give thanks to all those that are still following their duty, the animals. And so this is when I also teach. And yesterday I was teaching the future social workers. And I said, you have to, in order for you to continue to do your work, you also must take care of yourself. If you don't, you're going to carry a lot of grief, their grief, your grief, the community's grief, and after a while, you're going to be burnt out. So you need to learn how to take care of yourself so you can make the right decision. So I also was teaching a class of nurses, because it's so important to understand other nations. You see, your history books told you that we were nothing but dirty Indians, drunken Indians, all those negative words. But I'm a proud nation. I come from a nation that honors the life force that gives us life. I honor that love that the earth has given me. And so I spoke to them in that way. And so this is what one of my students created. This was her wish too, that we walk together in peace and that we understand and hold each other up. And so I have different strings of wampum that I had used. This is non-Indigenous. And so I want to say thank you for giving us this time to be together. And I say, with kind words, remember that is a gift and I give it to you. It's not even Christmas, because Christmas is every day for us. So give this word to all that you see today. Say hello to a complete stranger today. That is a gift. That is what Christmas is all about. Saying and doing a smile for somebody, because you may save their life. Ho ho.
Oh, you're not done yet, Renee.
Oh, well, I was going to save some time for questions, because I was hoping there were going to be a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I think I would love that. I would love people to open up and put their camera on. You don't have to, but it's always nice to see other people's faces. But just to have these conversations and ask questions and really the shift that happened for me, I said it in a pretty broad way, and sometimes I don't even really remember, because Renee and Grandma Gail, Grandma Renee and Grandma Gail gifted me this eagle feather, and I hold this when I do these talks, and it helps me to stay grounded and speak from my heart. And sometimes when I do that, it doesn't I don't remember what I say.
Yes.
Right. And so and Grandma says that's the way it's supposed to be. And I'm what I was saying at the beginning, or what I was hoping to express, was that there was a time in my life where I was just pushing through, and I think a lot of us do that as parents, and just people pushing through to survive. We're trying to figure ourselves out. We're moving and shaking as we go, and I'm just like grateful right now, because I feel like many people, when we gather in these circles, we're sharing the same words, that there's like this awakening, like there's this opportunity for us to be able to come to work and be ourselves and understand more where we come from. And there's just better understanding altogether. And And so when I started on that journey of understanding and really looking at myself as like, what kind of mom do I want to be? What kind of wife do I want to be in my roles and responsibilities? I asked that out loud in ceremony on the land. And, I didn't really expect that. I heard as loudly as I did that it was time to really become aware of being present in my femininity, my responsibility as a mom. And what I realized, there's a lot of change that I wanted to make within myself. And those on here who know me personally know that I do live in two worlds. There's times where when I'm with Grandma Renee and the grandmas, I it's like being around your grandparents or those people that you're like, okay, I better be checked in, because they're watching. But what has really blessed me is that the guidance comes from a really beautiful place. Like, they watch me make mistakes all the time. And they let me experience the feeling of making those mistakes and and maybe not mistakes, but having those experiences, and then being able to work through and ask those questions, and talk about, like, what if I would have done it this way, or maybe if I was a little more present. And so when I met the grandmas and they started to take me on my journey, which was really amazing and probably for another time, but they brought me to the mountains, they brought me to ceremony, they brought me to places that I never imagined I would be going as an urban Indigenous woman. And so being connected in this way, I really felt that call that I would love that everybody has this opportunity to have these understandings. And so they just continue to show up for us to share this knowledge and reminders that we can create our own joy. And it may take time, but I look at, what the bureaucracy, because that again is, if we're being realistic, bureaucracy and people, right? Maybe our jobs, and our families, and how do we carry them into each other without realizing, that it's, we're creating structures or carrying over structures or ideas of other people when we have the power to do all of that ourselves and be who we want in any time and space, obviously respecting boundaries and rules or whatever, is put in place to make things work within these spaces. But Renee and Gail, I think that they saved me, from that path of materialism and go. And I think, we want this. And what's really beautiful is, we're in our own little bubble here in Halton region, in Oakville or wherever we are. But the world is remembering that the grandmas have this knowledge now. It's not just our community. It's every community remembering that, the grandmas have that knowledge and that way to remind us how to be good to ourselves. So just a lot of gratitude. And if anyone here does, has a question or, would like to offer anything that you feel came to you during, Grandma Renee's teachings or sharings, you're more than welcome just to raise your hand and ask more questions. I know that this conversation, some people come with expectations of learning more about, the TRC or, what's being delivered out in mainstream to make sure that we are, committed to change or understanding. But, it's also really important to have just these grounding conversations about what next for me personally and, or you personally. So does anyone else, before we change the subject, would anyone like to add anything, any feelings or Yeah.
So I was just going to say, I really liked what you said. Thank you, Grandmother Renee, for all of everything that you said today and everything that you shared with us. I'm very honored to be part of this group because every time I'm with Jody, I always learn something all the time. But I really liked what you said about self-care, because I think especially there are some of us, you know, of a certain age, you're kind of in the middle, you're supporting people, whether it's at work or your family or your children, whatever. And sometimes it's very hard to support people because people need you for whatever reasons. But I think it's important to remember to take care of yourself. And I think that was really important. So I'm interested to hear from, I guess, anybody, like, what are some go-tos that you have for, like, how do you take care of yourself when you're really like stuck in the middle of everybody else's stuff and you need to regenerate or bring that back to you, because you do reflect it, right? Because people need you. So if you're in a good place, you can be in a good place for other people. So just any thoughts if we want to talk about it.
Yes, go for a walk. She must have heard my thoughts, because I was saying they do that. They go for walks in the forest, and go for a walk along the lake. Because nature understands that you can't do all this by yourself. So that's why the trees, all things of nature, this is why you need 13 trees just for you. It's to draw out all that negativity from you and give you another good, as they say, good energy back. And so 13 trees, can you imagine what you would around your home? I have double 13 trees. And so trees are one of the things, even going bare feet. Bare feet is even laying on the ground. I worked in a treatment center, and there would be people that would come in that had anxiety and depression and all those negativity. I said, come on, let's go outside, because it can drain me. So what I did was I said, just lay on the ground and talk, or whatever you want to do. And so pretty soon they said, oh, I feel a lot better. And so did I. So it was teamwork, working with the natural elements, even standing in the water, standing in a stream. That's why little children, that's how they get rid of you can dress them up in their finest and you can tell them to stay away from the water, but the water draws them and they'll play in the water. So water is another way of making us resilient. Listening to water, listening to birds, that helps you out. Even when you're working and when you're stressed out at work, put in the background sounds of nature. That can calm a lot of your grief. And even when with others, ask them to learn. Suggest listening to some bird songs, different birds. There are visuals that you can see, like the changing of the landscape. Observe that, just like visualize all the favorite places that you like. That's what they have. That's what they mean, having a good mind. Close your eyes and visit those places. That's how we did it. We went and visited the lakes, the oceans. We traveled great distance. We could go to Florida. We could go all these places. How many been to Hawaii in your chair? Yeah. So you see, having that good mind, just take that 5 minutes and you can rejuvenate yourself. But also, every time you hear trauma, don't, because you do the wrong things. What you do is you go, and you hold it, you capture it, and you keep it in your cells. What you need to do as soon as you hear trauma, you go, brush yourself off right away. Brush it off. Give yourself life again. Take some deep breath. It's almost like you're taking that vacuum cleaner inside your body and just sapped up all the crap and you let it go. And so just when you take that deep breath, it helps out a lot. A lot of other things that you can do. I love it how they're getting connected to what we used to do, is move. just stand up for a few minutes and just move that, because if you are stagnant, your water, your doubts and your fears are stagnant. So you got to get rid of them, shake it out of here. Dance. Oh, I love to dance. This is what life is all about. If you ever feel down, turn on some good music and dance. That's why our people are known for dancing. Well, as you say, we have all kinds of dance, but the only one they always ask for is our rain dance. And I'm grateful that they do, because we need to bring those tears out. We need to dance. We need to laugh. Another thing of healing is laughter. Laughter. And I like it how they go on internet now. You have all these little, I like how they have those grannies, what they're going through, and it's always silly. And it's just to make you laugh, because you remember your grandma doing something silly. My kids send me, my niece and my nephew send me this one picture about this grandma coming down the step, and she hears an old rock and roll song, and she puts down her purse, and she goes and she's just grooving there. Then she puts down her purse and she walks away again. Then she's got to finish that dance, and she dances all the way down those steps till she gets the car, and her granddaughter is just smiling because her grandma is still dancing. And even though she must have been on her way to the doctor's office or something, but she was dancing. And so dancing is another gift of renewing our spirit. And because I do that because I'm always in supporting people in their grieving. And so I have to I take them out of that place. And by the time we're done, we're smiling, we're feeling better. Because when I hear your stories, when we hear their stories, we put it on us. And so I don't want to keep that, but I want to help them. So I said, come on, let's shake all these stories that we've been going through. Let us get rid of them together. And that's what we did a long, long time ago. We had at Wood's Edge, where we would take care of all the visitors that would come into our territory. We would take care of them. And even having someone comb your hair is just like, we know that we have speeches, and how it's said that we know you have traveled the dusty and trying roads. You may have come through a lot of bramble, thorns, and thistles. So at this time, we remove them from your body. Physically, mentally, we're telling them how we're removing that. And we go about and we brush all these things off of you, so that you can see the sky again, so that you can hear the birds again, so that you can feel the water as it goes through you to reclaim wellness and health. And so these are speeches that we do. We even have such beautiful speeches at the grave, at the 10-day feast. We have such beautiful speeches. It's not ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You see, I shouldn't say I lost. My daughter journeyed on at a very young age. And because we have these speeches, it made me feel so happy that someone is holding her. Because in our speeches, they say, now our mother, the earth, will open up her arms to receive her loved one, and which will fold her, they will become as one. Isn't that beautiful? Someone's holding my daughter. She's not alone. She's not in a dark place. She is forever being held by someone that really loves her and takes care of her. And all will come to be a part of her. And so it helps out a lot. There's a lot of speeches that we have and that are still using. And so, but because of interference of our understanding of our life, a lot of it was said it was pagan, it was evil, it was we could no longer do it. A good example was when we went out, we would go like this, and they said, they're making many gods, when in reality what we were doing was we were thanking everything of nature. We were talking to them, just like You come into a house and you see all your aunties and uncles. You say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank every one of them for being a part of your life. And so that's another thing that we did. And the waters, oh, we were so grateful for the waters. They said when we were troubled minds, we would go to the waters. And we would sit there as we listened to the waters. And the waters it would visualize. We could see the water come up it was just like a caress, being washed all the negativity off of us. And so when we stood in that water and as the water flowed, it was taking all that negativity from us. And even the sand, when you stand on and put your bare feet in the sand, what they are saying now, it's detoxify you. We knew that. It is to rebuild your spirit. And then even putting your feet, bare feet on the ground, that what do they call it now? Earthing. Well, we knew that a long time ago. That's why we wear moccasins, and we had to take our shoes off first thing in the morning, and we greeted the earth. And that exchange of energy was just, it's powerful. It comes, you feel it. How many have picked up a rock or something from the earth, and you could feel that energy in it? We knew that everything had an energy. So even when we went and we touched the trees, it took away a lot of our grief, our sadness. And that's why children, that was their doctors, that was their helpers. But today, what is around them is concrete. Concrete. When the children, they should be outside, they should be on the ground. This is why we're having a lot of killing in the schools. And this was prophesied that the children will do the killing. You see, we have to take away those concrete. We have to put those trees back in their playground so those children can climb. They're the purifiers. They're the ones that get rid of all the virus. Notice how much the children get sick today? It's because there's so much concrete. It's so much metal. It's so much of the unnatural things. We need to restore a park in our playground. And that's another way of helping the teachers, helping those teachers, because when the children come back, they were so relieved of worries, whatever, and their minds were able to think again. And so we need to adjust for our children and create that place, because there are a lot of children that need that nurturing. It's going to be worse. We're going to create the future with a lost spirit, really lost spirit, because our children are using too much of these cell phones. I apologize, but this was also prophesied. And so when our children, they need human contact, that energy that flows between each other, they need that energy to be who they are, their purpose in life. It is not to anything technology. It is something that is of the natural world. And so even putting your hands on the ground, go out for a walk, also put your hands on the ground. That can renew you and restore you. For your lunch break, you can just go outside, you can touch the earth and give thanks that the earth is filled with a lot of unconditional love to build up our resilience. The reason we're having so much health problems today is because we have created a concrete world. And we need to get back to the natural world. And so we need to look at our rivers, because our rivers become so contaminated and so chemical. A lot of people, we're drinking chemical water. And how many remember the taste of water a long time ago? It had life, it had spirit. You didn't need to add in all these little mixture of, to give your water life. We had water that was, I remember my grandma's spring. Everybody in the community would come and they would ask, my grandma would share that water, and they would come and they would use that water and there was a lot. At that time, I would say, I looked and I saw a lot of healthy people because of our water. So you see, Our children need a playground. And I work also with daycare, and I see a lot of daycare are now, I know the Indigenous ones, they have animals there. They have, I'm glad to see the animal there because that's what every child needs. They are the first counselors. Every child needs that because people have become so busy, so far away. The animal will nurture them and take care of them and support them. And so this is why we give thanks to all those helpers. And even even though you look at poison ivy, you want to kill it, you want to kill all these bad things, but you see, their duty is to bring balance. And it's so sad that in our community, we had gypsy moss right away. You know what they wanted to do? They wanted to spray. But as a result of them spraying, there is a lot of lung problems in our community, a lot of lung problems. And this is where it comes from. When you spray your lawn, your children are going to breathe in that what you spray on your lawns to kill those plants. Those plants are medicine because every time you breathe, they are the doctors. They'll say, oh, how many found dandelions on your pathway? Those yellow flowers, those ones that appear, they're medicine for you. They tell you you need iron in your body. A lot of people are anemic because the food is not providing the nutrient that the people need. A good example was a long time ago. There used to be horsetails growing from outside my bedroom window because when I was sleeping, I was breathing and there was horsetail growing. Now there's no horsetails because I've taken that part because it showed me what I needed in my body. So I have to put the nutrients into my body. And so anything that grows around your house is medicine. If you have these big plants called mullein, it is, maybe a good example was there was a big plant outside of the doorway at the treatment center on the back part. And I asked the young people, I said, come look at this plant. Why do you think this plant is so big? Look at the shape of it. And it was like this. And I said, what do you think that is? And he looked and he says, is it a lung? I says, that's right. I said, this plant is telling you this is what you need because your lungs are in need of health. Because the more you smoke, I said, the more your lungs are being, and the plants know what you need just by your breath. Isn't that nice? The plants know what you need. And that's what we shared at the time of creation when the visitors came. And so this is a result of us sharing our knowledge. The farmer's alternate. That's what the old people have told me all the time. And all the old people would have this. You see, there's a hole. My grandma used to have them hanging in her doorway. This is to help us how to connect back to the earth and understand the stars and the weather. I already knew it was going to be a big storm. How many of you knew it was going to be a big storm? The universe showed us. The animals show us. And so I know I don't need the weather station. I look outside and I can tell that they're going to look after me and I'll be okay. So this is why we support our relationship, our kinship with the earth, because she's always giving to us as human beings all over the world. She has given us some medicine. She has given the animals to help us when we're grieving, helping us to achieve that good mind so that we can be at peace within ourselves. This is why there's so much disease today, is because there's so much wars inside their bodies. They have forgotten to be grateful for the rain. They're complaining because it's cold. They're complaining when the first snow, oh, it can go now. You see, the snow has to be here for a while because those viruses, they're getting stronger each year. And why we have every so often, it may be about 10 years or so, or they become really intense storms because chemicals are in the water, and they create all these viruses. And so those viruses get stronger. And so again, nature comes and just wipes them right out again. And so it'll be like this. And so I am so grateful for those thunders. I'm so grateful for those rains. So grateful. And the reason they're having a lot of flooding is that they took away a lot of the trees. The trees were the roots to keep that foundation. Many people build their homes on side of the mountains, but you know, you don't see too many animals build their homes, because you see, they don't have wings to fly. The only ones that can do that is the eagles and the birds. That's where they feel safe. And so people need to understand construction, architect, nature shows us how to build. And a lot of houses, roofs get blown off because the contour of their house, where our first longhouse was, our longhouses were an oval shape, so that the wind would come and would just go around it. And so we have so much of science is being understood by the universe. That was our science. It was the universe telling us how to build, how to live. And that's what we shared with you, how to create and how to make it a better world for all. And so there is much, much more. I could talk for hours, because the belts remind me of all these things, just like, and you, because you didn't ask me any questions, your spirit was like this. Oh, what about this? What about that? What about this? And so I had to add in some more things for you. And so thank you.
Oh, you're amazing. I don't know. Like, I just feel so happy. I'm so grateful for you, Renee. You know, it really truly is a blessing to be connected, and they really are connected. And I'm honored to be in this circle with all of you today. But you know, connected to these important voices and elders from across our nation. You know, this relationship that Renee and I have nurtured and shared with people has really expanded our circle of grandmas and elders across Canada that message us and tell us that the work that we're doing is really important. And when we started to really share the messages through COVID, I don't know, I know some of you, I'm seeing some familiar faces and names here, and really appreciate all of the support that we've been getting. But when the grandmas said through COVID, you know, Jody, we need to reach the people. How do we do that? And, you know, they didn't really spend a lot of time on, you know, virtually or digitally, right? And I was like, well, if you guys want to do this, we gotta learn how to work it, right? So we spent some time introducing them to this technology, and then trusting them, like building a relationship with the technology to believe and know that this energy can come, you know, it comes through, you know, it vibrates, it ripples, it's whatever it is you want to believe in, is real, you know. And these elders reach out on days that to just say, you know, how are you doing today, Jody? You know, how's everything going over there? And when that happens, you know, then I know that, you know, I've done something good. And I think it's the same for all of you. You know, when you're thinking of someone and then all of a sudden they reach out to you, or you see them in the streets, or you get an email from them. This is that ancient wisdom that I really believe that right now in this time, through all of this, like, you know, TRC and understanding where we are as a, you know, a cousin and non-Indigenous and Indigenous, a person in this time, is really about trusting what has been provided for us in this world we live in together, in a good way. that we are taken care of and we are provided for. And so, I'm grateful that Renee was available to join us today and share her love and words that remind us in all of this, also being kind to us, that, sometimes change doesn't come so quickly. And a lot of times, we can leave these conversations and be so anxious to, it's a perfect day actually to go outside, put your feet in the ground and your hands in the ground. You might as well do that. If it's anything you can do, go do that right away, because we don't know what the weather will be like. But just, again, being kind to yourself, being kind that, you've been shared some really amazing words today that I hope, resonates in your spirit and in your mind, in your heart. And that, on those days that maybe you forget the simplicity of being grateful for the surroundings and the metaphors and, little things that you pick up in community or in your home, or, just being more present, that just that gentle reminder is all you really need, and to be gentle with yourself as we continue to walk this path together, learning how to be good people to each other and for each other. So now I look at these nice messages. We love messages that tell us how wonderful we are. No, I'm just kidding. Can I just share before we go, if there's anyone that would like to speak, you don't have to come on. You can definitely share your voice. You can message us at any time. But just to share in community that we have a couple of really important things happening in our community, and I would like to tell you about them, if that's okay, you guys. On this Saturday, it's the first time in a while that we've done a paint night on a weekend. And so Saturday morning, we're actually doing this beautiful painting. You can see it. You can like our Facebook page or subscribe on YouTube, and you can join us with Painting with Moses. And it's the sunrise picture, and it's so gorgeous. And then next weekend out in Milton, we're having our artisan Indigenous fair. Oh my gosh, we have amazing vendors out there. We have amazing things happening. There's going to be the upstairs of the barn. If you haven't been there, there's a whole beautiful upstairs, and we're going to be having tea with Doda is basically what we're going to call it, because Grandma Gail's bringing her medicines, and we're having tea, and she's bringing some intuitive people. So we're going to be having conversations. There'll be 2 workshops or play shops with the creative shops with Grandma Wanda. And she'll be, so that'll be on Saturday at 2 and Sunday at 1. So if you have kids and you want to bring them, and you can shop around while they're doing a little craft. We're also with Saturday, Halton Environment Network. We'll be planting seeds together. So I thought I'd share that with you. And that's from 11 until 2 on Saturday at the center. And you can come and plant some native seedlings or seeds, and there'll be ones that you can store outside as well. So they'll be stored outside for the winter, and they'll be ready for you in the spring. And then just to share one beautiful dream, that when Renee and I and Gail and I were traveling, and we talked about what it means to them as Indigenous elders and women that have been a part of our everything that's happened in our society, directly affected by colonization is what I say, right? And they're here with their voices and their teachings and their knowledge, and they've preserved it, and they prayed for us, and they prayed for this day. That's what resonated with me, was that they were resilient and here and wanting to share the hope for the future if we all wake up for this. And on our journey, they asked me many questions, we'll say, right? Oh, like how do you know you want to do this work, Jody? Right. And I was like, I don't know if I want to, but I'm here for a reason, to find out why. And they shared this vision that they had of having this, you know, I want to say crisis team, we'll say, or a team of elders and healers that could go into communities and help heal the people. And I'd love to just share with you guys that we're actually doing that the first week of December. And I really believe that it's the support from our community and people like you guys that continue to show up and tell us how important our voices are, that we're flying to Thunder Bay with 4 residential school survivors from Mohawk, from the Mohawk Institute Indian Residential School, Grandma Renee, Gail, myself, Dennis Windigo, 2 video guys, and we're going in to do to work with a pretty big Indigenous community, the 49 Indigenous communities Northern, and they're bringing residential school survivors, community members to heal, and we're a part of that, and I'm just so grateful that I'm a part of this, and that we all are, because it's this time that we get to spend together in really true relationship in a loving space, to be able to just keep sharing this wherever we can. So, Yawa.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you, Grandmother Renee. This was a really special hour and a half that we were all lucky and fortunate to be part of. So thank you, and please join us next week, because our special guest will be Chandra, right, Jody? Yes.
We
Actually,
just had a quick
I
question
Chandra,
on the
Chandra Miracle. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, we just had a quick question on the times for the artisan fair. I had a quick look and I couldn't pull them up. So
yeah, I was just typing that in, but they're 9 to 5 on Saturday, and then 10 to 4 on Sunday. Yeah, and there'll be a lot of fun stuff, food and music and all kinds of stuff.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.
Ona.